My name's Marcus Hale. I'm 45, a contractor, and for 20-plus years I've made a living turning lumber and drywall into roofs that don't leak. Not glamorous, but honest. By my early 30s, I owned a modest, paid-off house and a small construction company with my brother Derek. He's the charm, I'm the spreadsheets. Life was steady. Then I met Clara. We crossed paths at a small-town fundraiser, lukewarm casserole, tired DJ, the works. She stood by the dessert table in scrubs, a woman worn thin but still luminous. Two kids orbited her, Isabel, 13 and razor smart, behind a teenage scowl, and Max, 10, all questions and curiosity. Something about the way she juggled everything with sheer will made me walk over and say hello. 2 weeks later, her car died during school drop-off. I jumped it, refused payment, and, somehow, became the guy they called when faucets leaked, doors sagged, homework confused, and life needed a second set of hands. Max handed me tools and asked 100 how-does-this-work questions. Isabel hovered at the edges, skeptical, but listening. When her phone shattered, I found a refurbished one in my junk drawer and earned a quick, surprised hug. The day Max chose the Golden Gate Bridge for his school project, the four of us spent a Saturday in the garage measuring, gluing, and sanding balsa wood. Isabel turned project manager. Max beamed when we won second place. At the door that night, Clara said softly, "I think Isabel sees you as a father figure." Somewhere between leaks and bridges, I'd stopped being the helpful neighbor and started feeling like family. We married 2 years later in my backyard. Derek smoked the barbecue, neighbors brought pies, and when the minister said husband and wife, Max tugged my sleeve and asked, "Can I call you Dad now?" Isabel introduced me all evening as my stepdad, Marcus, with a small, proud smile. It was simple, perfect, and the beginning of a hard lesson. Reality crept in, with algebra and curfews. Max met math with half effort and big sighs. I'd sit beside him explaining foundations before walls, steps before shortcuts. "Can I use a calculator?" he'd ask. "Learn it first," I'd say. Clara would float in, gentle as a diplomat. "Let's take a break. He's trying." Maybe, but not hard enough. Isabel had mastered the teenage roll of the eyes. "Clear the table?" Sigh. "Put your phone away for movie night?" Bigger sigh. The first time she muttered, "whatever," I calmly asked for respect. Clara's refrain, "She's just being a teenager. Don't take it personally." Reasonable words that, over time, pulled the rug from under any boundary I set. A pattern set like concrete. Kid crosses a line. I address it. Calmly. Consistently. Clara softens it, explains it, rescues them from the consequence. The kids learn to wait her out. I become the man who pays and nods. Entitlement followed. The refurbished phone I'd given Isabel became embarrassing. We upgraded. Family plan options, Clara said, and instantly heard complaints about the case color. Sports gear, laptops, brand-name clothes, a new bike for Max when the old one was babyish. Each request arrived as a polished pitch about fitting in, safety, college readiness. I said no where it made sense. Clara's diplomacy turned no into maybe, then yes. I was funding a lifestyle I hadn't agreed to. The straw wasn't huge. It was a $200 purse. "Madison's parents got her a Louis Vuitton for her birthday," Isabel said over Tuesday meatloaf. "I found the same one online, for graduation." "No," I said. "That's rent money, groceries, car payments, not a bag." "It's an investment," she argued. "Designer bags hold value." "Invest in your grades," I replied. "Invest in gratitude." And then she said it. Quiet. Sharp. "You're so cheap. You don't get it because you're not really my dad." Silence. Max looked up from his phone. Clara froze. "You're right," I told Isabel. "I'm not your father. I'm the guy who's paid your bills, taught you to drive, filled out your college apps, and showed up when your dad didn't. Clara chose that moment to plant a flag. Don't lecture. My kids, Marcus. If you want kids to lecture, have your own. I smiled. Not happy, clarified. All right, I said, and cleared my plate. That night I ran numbers on a legal pad. Roughly 30 grand a year on non-essentials I wasn't obligated to fund. I opened a separate checking account, moved my contributions from the kids' college funds back to my retirement, and called my attorney to understand exactly where a stepfather's responsibilities begin and end. Spoiler, not where we'd pretended. Clara noticed the account statements. You moved money out of Max's college fund. I moved my contributions, I said. I'm not his father. It didn't seem appropriate to plan his future if I'm not allowed to shape his present. She didn't have an answer. You can't demand someone bankroll rules you won't let them enforce. A week later, I filed for divorce. When the server handed her the envelope, Clara's hands shook. We can fix this, she said. Can we fix the part where I'm expected to pay but not parent? I asked. The part where no becomes maybe becomes yes because you're afraid of being the bad guy. The part where your daughter called me cheap and you told me to have my own kids? The children drifted into the kitchen. What's happening? Max asked. Your mom and I are divorcing, I told them. I'll move out soon. You can't just leave, Isabel blurted. What about my car insurance, college? You made it clear I'm not your father, I said gently. Why would I be responsible for those things? Clara cried. For real, not theatrics. You're their father in every way that matters. No, I said, picking up a box. I was their bank account, there's a difference. I signed the house over to her, my last contribution to stability, and moved into the space above our shop. The weight slid off as the truck turned the corner. Freedom felt like quiet. Saturday fishing with Derek, pizza without negotiation, an evening with no crisis about Wi-Fi or rides or brand names. Business boomed. With money no longer bleeding into necessities that weren't, I reinvested in the company, hired crews, landed a small subdivision. I dated a little. Mostly, I remembered what it felt like to be a person, not an ATM with feelings. 2 years later, I saw Isabel at the hardware store, hair in a ponytail behind the customer service counter, learning the hard and necessary lessons of real life. We nodded. At checkout, she said, Find everything okay? Professional. Steady. I paid. Take care, Isabel, I said. You too, Marcus, she replied. Not an apology. Not a barb. Just two people acknowledging a shared past and separate futures. Closure comes quiet sometimes. Clara once told me, if you want kids to lecture, have your own. It stung then. Now I hear the truth inside it. Fatherhood isn't blood or money. It's respect. It's authority paired with responsibility, being on the team, not just funding it. If a family won't grant you that, you can't buy it. You can only bow out with dignity. The sun was sinking when I pulled into my driveway, sky-lit orange and pink. Inside, tools on the counter, a bid to polish, a fishing trip to plan, and a life that, finally, belonged to me. It wasn't the story I'd hoped to write. It was honest, uncomplicated, and mine. And that was enough.